Let me ask those who take part in Sostenuto some doubts. How have we reached the current situation? Well, there are still reluctances to accept that culture will be the engine for social development for the citizens. What has happened? How have we reached this point? Sostenuto, when I read it and I studied it, is an excellent tool to turn around a situation that is a cul-de-sac, because you have given 5 ways to understand culture as the pieces of a jigsaw. You have talked about culture as an economic factor. It is a product that has to be put in the market and that will open new spaces for entrepreneurs, something that is on the marketplace, as well as an innovation factor for an economic sector, as a model for social relationships to structure a land for education, training for the city, culture as an instrument in communication and computer and internet communication, a way to mobilize knowledge to reach the greatest number. And the culture will have to start rationalizing and selecting everything that can be moved. You've talked about culture as citizenship. There is a sentence saying culture is valuable because it makes us intrinsically human, as participation, training criteria, culture in its ethic aspect, because culture exports factors to other parts of society and our institutions. The hierarchy of our society is a cultural product. And I'd like to stop here, because actually all our institutions are cultural products. We are here in the current situation not by chance. It is not just a result from nature, something that is spontaneous or something that we could foresee. We are in a situation of crisis, in a situation of lack of definition of the European project, lack of definition for the role of culture. And this is not by chance. It is clearly a cultural product. Are we really undergoing an economic crisis or a social crisis? Economy is, I am quite eccentric when I talk about economy. This happens when we are experts in economy. But the economic system is undergoing a new phase in the process that we foresaw, because there are people that become rich and wealthy without any cost. Those who become rich become even richer and at no cost. But what happens when we have what we call an economic crisis? In my opinion, it is a return of the upward system. We are defenseless. If it was a social, it actually is a social crisis, because we saw that democracies of Western countries were not in good health when we had a greater and greater abstention. The uncontrol in the speculative market of all speculative capital would bring very bad consequences. And the indifference of citizens that do not participate in collective projects was not good for good social health or the creation of societies. We knew that the structure of the European Union was more and more alien and remote from the dream of European construction. So we knew that things were not going well, but suddenly everything blew off, and this explosion brought about this awareness that we have no arms, we are defenseless in this battle. We say we know that we need more Europe. We are told that we need more democracy, more politics. But we are going in the opposite direction, because now what once had value is in crisis because the construction of the welfare state of the European Union was a cultural product. They had its reasons, its aims, and its consequences. But at a certain point, we were disoriented. Europe was moving on this pathway, but at a certain point, we got lost. Yesterday, someone mentioned Monet accurately, because Monet said Europe should have been built upon culture, not economy. That is true, because we are in front of a cultural product of citizenship. At a certain point, when Europe started to build Europe in a different way. And so I think that we are going to walk back to the beginning and start anew, because we have individuals that are methodologically economic with a very restricted rationality that look for individual projects, not collective projects. There is no public good as something that has a value that has to be defended. Quoting Giuseppe Ramoneda, in the background of this indifference culture, we have the commercialization, the mercantilization of society. And I think we will have to go back again to find the point where we lost that which allowed us to think that what we were creating was not a union of economic nations or an exchange of products, but a cultural product called European Union and welfare state. And this reflection finds its background in the economic policies, daily economic policies. I was listening to Jordi, and I felt a certain envy because I live in an area that is a very short-sighted, and I see how Sostenuto exchange international projects. But if we go down to the daily activity, cultural activities, the activities of our local entities, our governmental entities, we see that this cultural feeling, that this cultural degradation of the project has permeated our reality. How is culture understood from a political viewpoint? As an ornament, something that is nice. And so now, at times of difficulty, times of trouble, when we talk about culture, they say, yes, first let's talk about bread and then we'll talk about culture. But we will need jobs, contracts, cash flow, and then we'll talk about culture. We have placed the culture as the ornament of the cake, and culture was something that gave a certain glamour or prestige, a certain presence. If we do not have money for this, let's make without it. The most important way out would be through knowledge, through culture, through integration, multiculturalism, the connection between different knowledges. And we are doing just the opposite, because we are just working on the most basic needs and we are confusing our political priorities. The first non-compliances, the first one was mentioned by Paul Rossell, and this is one of the things he is right about. The correctness of any policy that is addressed to public good, the addressee is a citizen. And lately, cultural policies are thought about without citizens, without thinking about citizens. There was a rupture, a frontier between the public and the private sector. Cultural policy of the government is not a public policy. There is an institutional policy for culture, and there is a public policy that are different. But both sectors were fractured, and we started to see this institutional cultural policy without any demand from the citizens or cultural sectors, and without any will to generate this demand. One of the tasks for public policy is to create demand, to educate, train, increase the criteria of citizenship, but this was not foreseen or by the demands of citizens or the demands of different sectors, nor create new expectations. And so one of the elements that we've seen so often is that cultural policy, which is the outcome of this background, this crazy reality where we have built Europe, has been seen as the tool of different small kingdoms. We have never seen what we call integration, connection, solidarity, uh, sharing. Cultural policy have been watertight compartments for each area, for each region, for each city, to see who is going to build the highest tower. This was the frivolous, shallow concept of culture. What are the challenges that we have on the table? Challenges. First of all, what is public good? Because no one knows who is to defend or fight for public good. This goes beyond the institutional role of the government. We should recover the concept of public good for the citizens. What is the role for the government, for the administration? Because with the new technology of globalization and information and communication, we have an impressive tool to democratize knowledge beyond what the government says or the market imposes. There is a space which is completely new and that should be rationalized. And that belongs to no one. I suppose that you pay your electricity bill. Okay, so the following challenge, the necessary involvement of the citizen in creativeness and cultural consumption. Things are not free of charge or are carried out spontaneously. And there has to be a connection, a flow, and the integration of sectors. Pau was giving a very clear example before when he said, I've met people in the same university but working in different departments. This happened in university specialization. We have reached means to have deep knowledge, good quality of our knowledge, and not remoteness from society. But we have created watertight departments where it's impossible to have a flow of knowledge. And this is why we are moving so slowly. Someone gave the example of cities. Is university consulted about how cities should be designed? Is a university asked how we should plan a city so all the spaces can be livable and useful for the different aspects in the citizen's life? Is there any kind of a prior meeting between sectors so culture rises from bottom up? There is no fluency, no flow between specialized knowledge. This flow could be a great advantage, but its lack increases the disaggregation, the lack of exchange of knowledge. I wish to repeat my congratulations for your important work and my wish that we are able to go back in space and time and recover what we have abandoned, the construction of Europe with a strong cultural identity sense based on our cultural identity. I think that we've lost this aim and we are not just thinking about very cheap employment contracts. Thank you very much.